Hello everyone, and welcome to day 4 of candidates matches. Unfortunately, if you look from a statistical point of view, today was all draws. Last days we had lots of wins, and now all the games ended in a draw, but there were several very interesting things hidden behind the curtain, behind the scenes, was left behind the scenes. I hope you can see me and hear me well. So I'm gonna be downloaded the games from Chess24, and I'm gonna be using a very strong engine to assist me in my analysis, because I want to make a high quality analysis, not just not the one you can see if you just follow Chess24, ChessBomb, other platforms. If you follow those websites, the depth of the engine is very little to trust it. All right, so let's start with, I think, the game where MVL had really big chance to win. So as usual, Grishchuk was in time trouble. But let's dive in. They repeated the game Grishchuk played like 2-3 days ago against Nepomniachtchi. So same line happened until, let's see, I'm gonna use online database. So this is Berlin endgame. Takes, queen takes, king takes, h3, king e8, knight c3, h5. So black's idea is to stop white from getting too much space on the king side. Bishop development, 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 development. You can see lots of MVL games here, Vashelograph, lots of Vashelographs, and lots of Nakamura game with black. Karyakin played it, Rajabov, all top players are playing, almost all of them are playing this. Good evening, Mark. You don't mind draws. They try to indicate a lack of blunders. Yeah, that's true. I don't think any blunders happened today. So if you were watching the transmission, maybe you have seen that at one point MVL had like huge advantage. We'll get to that point in a second. So knight g5, trying to get two bishops. Black, if knight takes, it's rook takes, and black mobilizes all the pieces. Black would have a fantastic endgame after that. Rook f to e1, bishop to b4. There are plenty of other moves, but on top level they mostly play bishop to b4. And a3, all of the recent games were a3, and half of them was Maxim Vashelograph playing this. Grishchuk confessed in one of the press conferences that he spent like hundreds of hours analyzing this particular line of Berlin. I'm guessing MVL did the same because there are so many games in the database. So when you watch these games, it's always 0.00. So almost always. So it is really hard to distinguish where actually one side is playing for what, who is better and why. So I always found Berlin endgame to be quite confusing. Then I figured main ideas out, and hopefully I can help you with those at the moment. So, for example, one thing to bear in mind, that it is not very good to take with the f-pawn. Okay, in this case the rook is hanging, but even if it doesn't, you know, king h2, this is still an advantage for white, because white can simply push the pawns on the king side. So that is why black is trying so hard to take with on e6 with the piece. So I think Nepo's game continued differently. What did he do here? Sorry, I forgot, and I don't have a way to check it very quickly. Although, no, I do. I go to Chess24, I go to Grishchuk, and I quickly click on Nepo. That was round 2. And after a3, bishop takes h4, king h2 played by Nepo in 1 minute. Okay, so MVL went for the same position and went for g4, which he already played with Nakamura 2 years ago. H takes g, obvious recapture, and f takes g. So if you watch it on Chess24, after g4, h takes g, f takes g, it gives -40 for black, which is not the case. If you use stronger engine, it would go to zeros quickly. And obviously white has idea of expanding on the king side. That's usually the only way to improve for white. So what happened next? You can guess Grishchuk was out of his preparation, because he spent 53 minutes on his next move. I don't know, did he take a sleeping pill or something? He confessed that he almost literally fell asleep during the game and he shouldn't do it. He knows it and yet he cannot resist the temptation. So Vashela Graf Nakamura and Giri Nakamura, 2 games were played here. Nakamura used to play knight e7 and then he played king f8 to try to include the rook. Usually the rook is the problem. You cannot include the rook. So for example, rook d8 is a... hold on a second, it is not a blunder. I thought it was a blunder, but it's not. Okay, rook d8 seems like a logical, decent move to me. But Grischuk played knight e7 and Maxim blitzed out his next move h4. And again, if you watch through chess 24, after h4, it gives minus 0.43 for black. So what kind of preparation is this? The problem is the depth is 19 and you cannot understand the position based on that embarrassing depth. Depth 31 and the engine still is confused what is the best move for black. So I think Grischuk again played very good chess, even though his time management was horrible. On 2 moves, he spent 1 hour and 15 minutes. I think they get 2 hours each. So almost more than half of his time he spent on the following 2 moves. Yes, knight d5 is a good move. It is logical, strong move, but almost any other move would be good. But I'm guessing he's an expert of this endgame. He knows all the details. He doesn't look at zeros from engine. He tries to understand wide idea. I'm guessing White just want to expand king g2, king g2, king f3, prepare h5, prepare g4 and try to push those pawns, and he needs to find some counterplay. So that is what he's doing. He goes knight d5, which is a forcing move. You attack here, you attack there, and if White plays like passive move bishop d2, then maybe the rook can join the game and black would have a decent position. So, but black obviously had other options. Knight d5, bishop to c1 happened. Bishop to c1. So Maxim blitzing out moves until move 22. Okay, so Grischuk, I want to give credit, so new position, so I'm going to turn off the live database. Lots of moves for black. He decides to take the pawn. That actually takes guts to take that pawn. And in 3 minutes, and after rook d3, in another 20 minutes, which is quite surprising. What else was he expecting except rook d3 with a tempo? So if you play a move like this, if the response is relatively obvious, you should prepare your next move quickly. h4 confused Mark, and g4 makes more sense in your opinion. I am Patzer, of course. Yeah, for me too. G4 makes more sense just based on that you're supposed to put the pawns differently. I think the problem would be that the bishop is undefended. Knight d5, and in some lines the pawn would need protection. And although yes, if black is not fast enough, White would simply go king g2, king g3, h4 and get the dream position. But I'm guessing there's subtle nuances. Everything needs to be protected for this sacrifice to work. So here Maxim spent some time and played rook to f3, improving the rook. And bishop d5 played by Grischuk. Another good move, but he was very, very low on time now. Rook to f4, and knight goes to b6, stopping White's c4. So now black did win the pawn, but White get very strong initiative. So black's pieces are not well placed now. This is not the way the pieces should be. And if White manages to break them, White would penetrate black's position through f7 or through e6. So rook f1, creating a threat. Rook g6, defending from a threat. Knight takes f7, it's rook to g3 check, and the king is in huge trouble. So, and now MVL played rook f5 in just 2 minutes. And again, the stockfish of Chess Bomb gives minus 40 again, which is not the case. The position is still within equality. White is still pressing. White is preparing h5 to protect the knight on g5 twice. h5 is being prepared, and black needs to do something. So Grischuk plays a forcing move, rook goes to e1, and now king e8, all logical moves, but there were so many options on every step that I don't want to just analyze all of them. So we almost reached the critical moment. Here, e6 was a suggestion from the engine. The position would be very messy. e6, so White wants to get to f7. So taking is horrible. Rook goes to f7. White just penetrates black's position and dominates. So e6, f6 was the only move. So I'm guessing this is what Grishchuk was calculating. You've got to calculate this. And on h5, the rook is hanging. And if you take on g5, this apparently is not so good because, again, rook penetrates and the h-pawn would decide eventually. So h5, you have to go rook h6. It looks dangerous. The knight is not even hanging. But apparently black is doing all right in this position. White is pawn down, but I don't know what is going on here. This is bishop takes e6, knight g5, f takes g5, rook e5. White is still pressing, but black can hold this. But this never happened. h5, logical move by Maxim. And now rook h6. And g4, gaining more space. Rook h2, h8. You really don't want to always calculate this x-ray when you're low on time. And now h4, brilliant move from MVL in 13 minutes. a4, and white is breaking the coordination of black's pieces. The bishop is ready to join. So for example, if bishop tries to join from here, that's just simply c5. e6 is happening. Interesting. a5, yes, a5 of course, not c5. So he tries to go a4, and now bishop a3 is basically unstoppable. Knight takes a4, and c5, it says knight bishop to e6 was good, but I think white is still pressing a lot. Check. You have to go knight d5. c4 would be on. Black is in trouble here. So Grishchuk took the pawn, and here is where the engine gave huge advantage to white. Instead of check, which is so natural, and MVL played it in almost 3 minutes, the engine says rook e4 was winning, and the main line is, so the bishop is hanging, and so black has moves b5 and bishop e6. If b5, it's check, and if c5, takes on f7. So the moment white penetrates to 7th rank, black is completely lost. White can even do simple moves like king g2, but takes, white dominates the place. This is a win. So if white removes that bishop. So bishop e6 was the move, and now knight takes e6, and they all went for, I think they all went for it. So pawn takes, black needs to counterattack the rook. So the idea is, so if white takes this knight, then bishop takes the rook, pawn takes, and rook takes h5, and suddenly black seizes the initiative. So knight takes e6, pawn takes e6, rook is hanging, but white can continue with a check on g5. Very surprising, by the way. Check, king goes, let's say, to e8, white retreats to f3 to not let the knight go here, and black goes something like b5, and then somehow white still penetrates to f7, which was the goal in the first place. This is very hard to spot. And there's one more line that is very hard to spot. It's that black has intermediate move knight to c3. And what do? Like, normally people would consider rook c4, which is not working anymore because there would be a check here. If pawn takes, rook g5, there's knight takes, and the bishop is lost, and white has to make a draw here. Rook c7, and white can make a draw because the king is weak. So on knight c3, you have to, if rook goes to e3, it's f takes e6, it's not even close as good as it was there. Knight g5 was winning. Knight e4, rook f7, rook gets to f7 square, and now just rook takes here, and if takes, bishop takes. Again, white dominates that rook, did not join the game. Probably it's worse to continue the variation. But after h7, h3, I guess not bishop f6, e6, and mate is coming, yes. So these all lines were left behind the scenes. So MVL did miss a great chance to win, and it is very weird because he did have a lot of time on his clock. And then he spent 2 minutes, 5 seconds, 50 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 minutes. He tried, and Grishchuk spent seconds, so he had like 1 or 2 minutes on his clock. So he decided to win the game using the time advantage. But usually the best way to win by time advantage is to take your time, calculate further than your opponent can in that 1 minute, and then make use of it. So, and I think after it, bishop a3, very natural move, e6, very natural, because white tries to get to f7 square, f6, bishop c5, everything looks very promising here. F takes g, well, maybe there are other moves, but f takes g, rook c7, king goes forward, rook takes, and as you know, all rook endgames are a draw. I think this one is not... yeah, there were maybe other moves for black, but a5 makes more sense. And again, chess24 engine was giving, let me check, the evaluation was giving +1. So you may think that that was a win. Rook d4, it gives +1, and the line it provides is king c6 and rook e to d1. That's the move it is providing. Rook h to g8. This is the move it is considering. This is ridiculous. So if you check chess24, it's rook d4, king c6, rook e d1, rook h to g8. Yeah, after rook h to g8, it's +1. What kind of move is rook h to g8? Of course, the rook goes in front of the pawn, and black can hold this one. So rook d4 was not winning. Maybe it was creating more problems for black, but nothing too critical. Why didn't he take the pawn? Because after check you cannot go here because of a mate. So you have to go to f7, and it looks very dangerous. On check, you either have to go to g8, which looks horrible, or you have to go here, where white can repeat moves. It looks like a mating net. It's better to stay away from it. King e7, rook e4, finally completes the development, and after that, not much has happened. Rook endgame, so the a pawn distracts white from anything, and they exchanged everything. And that was a draw. So MVL did deserve to win this one. He got his opponent into preparation. He actually got a winning position, although the combination was, well, within his reach for sure. He's an extraordinarily strong player. But he did not spend time to find it. Well, how much time did he spend on bishop a3? 2 minutes. 2 minutes, that's way too little. He did have other options at that moment. So that was a critical moment in the game. He has e6 move, he has bishop a3 check, he has rook e4 move, maybe rook back to f4. There are several moves that, okay, back to f4 doesn't make sense. The rook needs to attack f7. So there were several moves that he should have continued, and he spent only 2 minutes. Poor time management from MVL and very poor time management. I mean, that particular moment, 2 minutes. Yeah, you should spend more than that. Maybe he thought he was winning because after f takes g5, he spent 5 minutes on rook c7. Maybe he thought he was winning. This could be, or maybe he was expecting a move like b5 or something. But after f takes g, he spent 5 minutes. But what else can you do except takes and move back? But yeah, after this, the moment was lost. He should have spent 10 minutes right here, and I'm pretty sure he would found rook e4. So the idea is to see that you need to give up an exchange. If b5, you just take it. And if bishop e6, which is the main move, 9 takes, pawn takes, let's say if you move the rook, there's knight c5, you give a check, and if king e8, you penetrate through f-file, and if king d7, you also get into black's position. So f7 was the goal, and he missed it. So very close. MVL was very close to taking sole lead in this tournament. But Grischuk, the first game that Grischuk was in trouble, so he was better in all the previous games, and now he was worse, and he saved it. So maybe Kaisa is returning, taking the luck back from so 3 good positions, now finally 1 bad position for Grischuk. All right, let's move on to the next game. Dink Giri. Bishop b4 check, not the main line. Okay, bishop b4 is the main line. a5, not the main line at all. Mark says rook h to g8 does seem weird. Perhaps the idea is g6 to weaken white's pawns, but yeah, rook e8 is better. So that's why you shouldn't trust that engine on chess24. I didn't check chess bomb engine, but usually the minimum depth is 25 to start believing what engine is suggesting. That's my observation. 30 is the better number, but you can never get there. So Dink Giri, check and a5. Bishop to g2, d5. So Giri was very well prepared in this game and deserved a draw for sure. He started thinking at move 17, more or less at move 17. And Dink started thinking it already at move like 8. So he did not expect this line. I'm guessing because yeah, Giri never played it. Bishop e7 is considered the main one, which transposes to main Catalan, followed by d5. lowering the bishop to d2 where it would be misplaced. So that's the idea of the line. All right, let's move on. So where did the novelty happen? a5, bishop g2, d5, knight f3, castle, queen c2, all natural moves. White is developing, white wants to protect the pawn on c4, c5. So I can see Ryazantsev played it many times. He's one of the coaches of Russian team, so that must be a decent line for black. C takes d, knight d4, queen b6. So Giri is just following Ryazantsev and Vovk and other strong grandmasters game. e3, e takes d5. So what do we have here? Black has isolated pawn, but due to the fact that white played e3, white squares are weakened, so black would try to exploit it, and black would, in a way, succeed to do so. So let's see what happened next. He was still blitzing out moves. Knight c6, the moves are very natural, and there are lots of Ryazantsev games here. Knight takes c6, b takes c6, rook c1, rook b8 still blitzing out, bishop takes b4. There were other moves, of course, for white. Capture was not necessary. There was bishop c3 move, there was capture on b4. White could have tried many moves, but so far Dink is doing the best moves according to engine. Bishop to b4, queen to b4, and that was bishop takes b4. No, rook b8 is a novelty by Giri, apparently, at least according to online database. Right? And let's see what happened next. Knight c3 was a natural move. I'm sure it was prepared by Giri. I don't know what was his preparation. Maybe just rook e8, develop some pieces. I think white's position is very pleasant to play, but black has a good center and some potential ideas like this, which Magnus pointed out in the live stream of Chess24. All right. So maybe knight c3 could be an improvement because it is supported by engine. I'm not sure what Giri has prepared here. The problem is of these evaluations, it is very often the case that after some line, the whole queen side disappears and they go to a rook ending, 4 against 3, and engine gives 0.6 to it. But that is a very easy draw for black if you know what you're doing, and I'm sure Anish knows exactly what to do in those positions. Which game is your most favorite so far? Ha Wu is asking. Which game? Well, the one that resulted in a win for sure. If I had to pick one, let's see. None of them. Okay, Caruana's win against Oleksiyenko was very convincing and very good, but that's an obvious choice. Vashyelagraf Dink, he beat him out of the opening. He didn't have to show much. Probably win with black by Wang Hao is good, or win with black by Nepo in the first round against Giri. I think that was a very good game. So you fall into the preparation, you find everything. Yeah, probably Giri Nepo is my so far favorite from round 1. Okay, so knight c3, and yeah, the evaluation is good for white, but black can hold this one. So he took, queen takes, b3, a very natural way. White wants to exchange dark squared bishops, and here Giri in a few minutes played h5, which seems to me this is the typical idea for this kind of position. So what happened next? He played h5 only in 2 minutes, I think. Let's see, he was, yeah, h5 2 minutes and h4 4 minutes. The engine doesn't necessarily support this idea, but every engine is different, every version of Stockfish is different. h5 is very logical. Knight c3, knight d2 suggested by engine, but I don't think it's a big difference. See, the engine already gives equality after you play h5. Knight c3, h4. This is very natural plan. Black wants to compromise white's king side. Knight goes to e2. Knight a4 was possible, but Ding doesn't want to move pieces away from the king for too much, because hypothetically black can go g6, king g7, rook h8, throw the queen there, and checkmate. Of course, it's very long shot, but nevertheless, he wants to keep it safe. That would be my guess. So he played knight e2, bishop d7, protecting the weakness. Knight goes to f4. Knight wants to regroup here, I guess. Takes, rook to c8. Maybe there were other moves, but Giri is a very solid player. Bishop to f3. Knight d3. I guess he didn't want the queen to appear on the king side. That would be my guess. He doesn't like this, you know. But, this is Fischer-Spassky style. Taking a supposedly bad bishop and try to convert this one. I think the advantage is not very big at all. In best case, white gets 3 against 2, and most likely that would be a rook endgame. So I can relate to bishop f3. He doesn't want the queen there. a4 takes, rook a8, very logical play. Knight d3, queen a4, takes. White got a distant passed pawn, but black got his passed pawn on the c file. So knight to c5, rook to a5, pushing the pawn, improving the rook, protecting the weakness. Well, knight d7 was now a threat, so bishop e8, very solid move. Now it's time to improve the kings. White improves the rook. Black goes here. King e7 was also playable. Probably he didn't like check or something. And then some tension on the... c5 is coming. I did not see that one. King e7 was perfectly playable, but he decided that, yeah, you can just simplify like this. c5 is unstoppable, and most likely the queen side would be exchanged. Why didn't he take here? f7 is hanging. Rook f7, king e8, and bishop moves away. Yeah, that was the problem. And now there are problems for black. So he went rook a7, takes. The exchange is almost there, but white is still playing for a win. Rook c5 would lead to immediate draw. The kings are approaching, the pawn being pushed. The kings are approaching. Rook a6, that's a good move, by the way. Rook a6, the idea is that if a5, I thought the idea was rook f6. Hold on a second. Rook a6. Why not bishop c6? What's the difference? The pawn on a4 is not protected, as you can let loose the pawn and capture loses because of rook a1. Yes, now it makes sense. But with rook on a6, black would go bishop b5 and survive. So that's why rook a6, so that white's pieces cannot move. And if a5, I think it's king b5. Oh my goodness. I am tired. My apologies. Bishop a4 check, loses the bishop. If a5, any other move is good. So white was still pressing a little bit. g4, g5, a5. Black is just doing nothing. Doing nothing is very often a good strategy to survive a bad endgame. All right. So pretty even game. You can find glitches on the sun, but I think good preparation by Giri. Very surprising line. I would say it seems that white get a good edge, but I'm sure he and his team analyzed so deep that found relatively easy equality. So basically black equalizes everywhere, I'm guessing now. Although it's not for everybody to play such a although if you see h5, h4 plan, that looks promising. Because if there was no plan like this, it's psychologically very hard to play. But h5, h4 is consistent with the pawn structure. Black controls the center a little bit better, so h5 makes lots of sense. All right, Caruana Nepo. Caruana Nepo. Let's see. Yeah, basically almost. So Caruana started thinking at move 21, and Nepo started thinking much earlier, but not to a high degree. So let's see what was played. The most played line in Grülfeld is this one. Knight e2. This is like the main position statistically. Castle, knight c6, bishop e3. There are so many moves here for black. Queen c7, bishop g4, c takes d, b6, bishop g4, bishop d7. Lots of moves here, so very rich position. But usually white tries to play in the center or on the king side, which is no surprise. But when you control the center, you should think about attacking the king. So it's way too early to talk about anything here. So dc5 was the main move, but I think they found many draws here. The idea is that if I just starts taking those pawns, black's compensation is enormous here. This bishop is strong, those pawns are weak, everything would simplify quickly. And knight d4 used to be played many times, and black found many ways to equalize here. So queen d2, preparation by Caruana, bishop b7, rook to d1, not Engine's most favorite line, c takes d, rook c8. So Nepo is playing all very natural moves, and only a few games left. Zubov and Tipov from last year, that's like the only one game from high level that was played, and 0 correspondence games as far as I'm concerned. Rook to c1, so it's all prepared by Fabi. And here there are many, it's some transpositions happened, I guess. Okay, queen d7, black completes the development, and h4, preparation by Caruana. The idea is to push that pawn as far as possible, and then to get some kingside attack. And so that's why what Nepo is doing is exchanging everything you can. Oh, Vlastimil Hort, Maya Chiburdanidze, wow, 1988. h5, this position happened. Oh wow, I did not know that. Wow. And queen c8, novelty by Nepo. So e6 was played in that game, and h6, the engine gives zeros, but it is very misleading. I would say it's very hard to play for black, in my view, because, well, there are almost no pieces near the king, and you never know when like e5, knight f4, and e6 sacrifices would happen. So queen c8, very natural response from Nepo. If black exchanges queens, by the way, remember this thought, the reason Fabi didn't create enough problems, in my opinion, against Nepo, that Nepo managed to exchange queens. If you exchange queens, there's nothing really to talk about. h4, h5 is not dangerous anymore. Black has no weaknesses, so the only problem black may have is the weak king. So by the way, it is surprising to me that he didn't take here. I would do it. Well, what was, maybe there was some subtle detail that I was missing. d5. So here, if white takes here and plays d5, black can go e6 and then take with the bishop and then even claim some advantage. And d6 is usually that pawn will not survive. So that, I guess, is the difference. But queen c1, bishop f8, I don't know, d5, black has to go e6, compromising the pawn structure. Maybe that's what he didn't like. So he played bishop f8, d5. Yeah, that would transpose. I see. So that was Caruana's idea, although I don't know. I think black is doing all right here, but I'm sure Fabi's. So bottom line is, if black can go e6 without compromising the pawn structure, black is fine. But this doesn't seem to be the case. If bishop c8, what's gonna happen? e5, and if e6, it's d6. And yeah, now it's really unpleasant. So he played e6. He wants to keep his pawn structure flexible. What happened next? Knight c3. Still I think preparation by Fabi, because he played, he played this move in 4 minutes. He played d5 in 4 minutes. He tried to understand if there are any difference, because d5 takes e6, I'm assuming leads to his preparation. e6, I'm guessing he prepared this, and found some edge, some pleasant edge here. Bishop c8, and maybe the white can do something, because the pawn on e6 is weak, and h7 will always need protection. So knight c3, knight c4, and here he spent on bishop takes c4, hold on, 13 minutes. Okay. And again, if you were watching through Chess24 Stockfish's eyes, you would see that bishop c4, after bishop c4, queen c4, it's 0.1, and bishop f4 would gives white 0.3. This is not the case after bishop f4, but it doesn't even provide any line. Bishop to f4, I don't know what Nepo had prepared. Maybe it was a better try, but bishop takes c4, takes, and queen d2. It's a very natural try. He wants to push the d pawn very far. Maybe bishop f4 was better. Is e5 possible? e5 was possible. Bishop to g5. Why is it so bad? Knight d6. Bishop goes to f6, of course. So maybe f6 first. Yeah, probably that would be Nepo's idea. f6 followed by e5. So bishop c4, queen d2. Where was the moment? So I must point out that Nepo played all the natural moves. With every move he tried to improve his position, and it seems that he equalized relatively easy. Knight d5, pawn takes, queen b4, very important move. Exchanging queens favors black for sure, because there are two reasons why white could claim advantage here. It's a passed pawn that is very dangerous, and it's a weak king because of this pawn on h6. Both of those go away with queens being exchanged. That's why Fabi is keeping the queens. Although if you look with the engine, it's zeros all over the place. But white is playing for a win, because with this king, white is never worse. With this pawn, white is never worse. With queens on the board, white is never worse. Queen d3, queen a3, maybe an inaccuracy, but who am I to judge? He insists on exchanging queens. Queen c2, and now queen a5. Some weird maneuvers from Nepo, but I'm not sure what else to... Bishop c5 is very dangerous. Takes. Queen takes only move, so black is threatening to take the pawn with the check. And if d6, it's check here, check, king g3, queen g5, king f3, queen f6. It is not obvious to me. If white pushes the pawn to d7, black would be in big trouble. King e2. Oh, king f8, d7. Ah, the problem is that there's a check, of course. Okay, so maybe not pushing d6, maybe playing like g4 or something. And queen d6 only move, and white is still pressing like queen d4. King f8 only move, so something was, yeah, I understand why he didn't play bishop c5. But this is not something you would see if you just watch with Stockfish. You would be like, oh, why didn't he play bishop c5? That was the best line according to Chess24 engine. Bishop, where was it? Queen b4, queen d3, queen a3, queen c2. Actually, Chess24 engine was giving big advantage to white in this position. I did not know that. This position where my engine gives zeros with two moves, it gives huge +1 and other, doesn't even consider bishop to c5. Bishop d6 was a natural move, but maybe he didn't like something queen coming in, so he wanted to this, queen c2, why not queen d1? Because queen d6 or bishop d6. So queen c2, white wants to go queen c8, queen a5, attacking the pawn, queen back to d1, bishop d6, stopping the pawn, but now the queen is a little bit misplaced. So white is still pressing, g3, king f8, and now this queen f3 move I didn't really understand. I keep seeing this from Fabi. For some reason, in one moment, he just plays like moves that is too slow, in my opinion. Dobry wieczór. Dobry wieczór. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Sorry. Здравствуйте. Dobry wieczór. Queen f3 looks too slow to me. Queen d4 was such an obvious move to play. He obviously considered it. It's not like he didn't consider it. And it is easy to say when you're watching with the chess engine. But queen d4 is such a natural... 18 minutes. He spent 18 minutes on queen f3. After queen d4, queen h8 is coming. It seems the only move is king e7. And why queen h8 is not so dangerous? Because queen d5 takes and perpetual on white squares. Okay. So king e7 was the only move, but white can keep pressing with queen e4. Apparently king back to f8 is the only move, and white can keep pressing with bishop d4. All these moves are very natural and strong. Queen to b5, almost only move. Bishop goes to g7, king g8. Black is on the ropes, you know. White is attacking significantly. I don't know how to improve here, but this is very unpleasant. Queen f3 is a little bit too slow. Usually you should be considering forcing moves that create an immediate threat. Well, you may say, oh, queen f6, queen f6 is the threat. Yes, queen f6 is a threat because mate on d8 and check on h8. But black has so many ways to handle it. For example, check on f5, which I'm guessing Fabi missed. Maybe he anticipated queen c3, which was also a good defense. But after f5, g4, queen b1, great move, bishop d4, king f7, I think queen e4 here would also be good, yeah. So king f7, now suddenly black is playing for a win in this position. You may be, When you watch with engine, you say, oh, zeros, it's a draw. It is not a draw. Black is playing for a win, because without queens, that pawn on h6 is a liability. Black has a possibility of distant passed pawn. Black is better. And this bishop on d4 would have nothing to attack in a few moves. That bishop has now to only defend. So Nepo tried to create some problems. For example, I'll give you an example of a problem. So he moved the bishop to d6. It took him some time. And now he went with the king around. It seems zeros, zeros, everything is zeros. Now you have to go bishop d8, because if you don't, b4, king a5 is coming. King a6. And what happened here? How did they end the game? Let's see. King d3. So for example, here a line that I wanted to show was this. Black could have went b4, and now king c4 is the only move. On b3, king, okay, bishop f6 was there. Yeah, bishop f6, I did not see that move. I thought the capture was necessary. And then after capture, king goes to b5, king c3, king c5, king d3, king d5. You go with the king. And if you go with the king further, bishop goes to f8. Yeah, even bishop g5 is fine. Yeah, not really much to discuss, except on b4, that's the only move. And moving the bishop looks a little bit dangerous because of king a5. Oh, bishop e5. I'm under check. Sorry, king a5 goes into a check. b4, king c4 again, only move. King a5, king b3, only move. King b5, and black did achieve progress. Bishop d4, only move. Apparently this is still a draw, but that is not something you want to see. So that is why king d3 or king c3 is the most accurate way to make a draw. But I get why Jan decided to play a little bit. He never had a better position in the whole game, so it is worth going forward even for a little bit. Okay. Vankao Oleksiyenko. I don't think there's much to discuss here. As far as I know, Vank went without a team. He didn't have a team. So I'm guessing that's why it was his opening choice. He was spending time already on move 9. And Oleksiyenko was, well, already spending time on move 9, because Vankao did not choose the most dangerous line. He wanted just to play chess with knight bd2. a5. There are many moves for black here, but black shouldn't have much problems. Black develops pieces naturally. Bishop to b2, a4, improving the rook on a8, b takes a4, queen a5, queen b3, attacking the pawn. And it's important, Grishchuk played like this with Dink, knight to bd7. Grishchuk played queen a4, and what happened there? Queen b7, knight bd7, and apparently black has very good compensation. Queen b3. I don't know what Vank had prepared here. He spent already on all those moves, he spent some 15 minutes. I'm not sure if it was in his preparation. Maybe there are some details, but it seems that black's compensation. Oh, that's a nice move, c takes d. If rook takes, its pawn takes, and due to x-ray, white is winning. So c takes d, and after takes, the pawn on a2 should not survive. Black has a huge compensation. Knights are coming, knight e4, knight b6, knight c4, rook a8. So, so maybe Kirill knew it, but so he decided to go with this move order. C takes d, rook f2, c1. So white did not get any advantage whatsoever, but it seems that he had a chance. Rook a6 looks like a very weird move to me. Rook a6, Kirill spent... By the way, in the previous game where Fabi played queen f3, he spent 18 minutes or so, and apparently that was not the best choice. And I noticed that if a person spends more than 15 minutes, unless it's Grishchuk, very often he/she makes a mistake because of overthinking. So I want to check how much time did Kirill spend on rook a6. 20 minutes. That move looks very artificial. There were so many good-looking... Queen a4 would transpose. No, the queen is trapped. Wait a second. No, the bishop is hanging on b2. Why didn't he take the pawn? I have no idea. So there were several good-looking logical moves. Queen takes, knight goes to e4. What else? Rook to e8 looks a little weird. Rook to b8. Another good try. So these were natural moves that you can understand. Rook a6, I'm guessing he wants to go rook b6. But it's a weird move. That's definitely not the move that pops into your head even in the first 5 minutes, right? These are the moves that pop in. Take or knight e4, or maybe rook c8, but it loses the pawn, so I am not a big fan of that. Rook b8, protecting the pawn, although there's no need to protect. You can just do this. Maybe he didn't like rook coming in to c7. Maybe that was the case. But rook a6 looks very weird to me, and it gave chances to Van Gaal. e3, good try. Maybe bishop a3 was better, but e3, white wants to improve this bishop and block this guy. Queen a4, bishop to f1, queen b3, a takes b, rook a1, and white did get advantage because rook will go to a7, and it's not very pleasant to play for black. And rook c8 is never dangerous because of knight e1, controlling this. Then the rook will penetrate to a7, some pressure, I would say. Knight to b6, rook goes to a7, rook goes to b8, knight goes to e5. Now he plays simple, strong moves. Knight f to d7, good idea to exchange that guy. Bishop to b5, f6. Black had other choices as well, but he decided to simplify, which makes sense. And again, if you were watching with chess24, I think the engine was giving like huge advantage, 0.6. That was the advantage of chess24 engine of this exact position, 0.6. You would say, oh, that was a big mistake by Kirill to go f6. No, it was not. It was very good move. Now the king is ready to go, exchange some more pieces. There's no 0.6. The line it is providing is takes, and knight to f3. Where is this knight going? The pawn is on f6. Where is this knight going? Is it going like this? That's way too slow. So it goes knight f3 and it says knight b6 is the move. I don't understand knight b6 move. Where is this knight going? To c8? I understand king f7 and black will equalize very soon. Then e6, then bishop would go to d6. Not much. There's no 0.6 here. That's a ridiculous evaluation. 0.6. So I don't think, okay. And then bishop to f8. So they play the endgame. White is still pushing because white controls the open file. And now e5, b4, b6, very good try. So here Van Gaal did get chances because now Kirill had to calculate stuff. It's not like you can make a move and say it's all fine. You have to calculate. If not b6, that's an unpleasant position. b6, great move. c6, bishop to b4, e4. Why e4? We need to distract the bishop from... so c7 was possible, but that most likely would be a transposition. You need to get rid of this guy. And if you go e4, d4, knight takes e4, you distract the bishop. And, well, check out the evaluation of my engine. c7, rook f8, bishop c4, king h8, bishop e6. The evaluation of chess24 engine was, bishop f5, again 0.8 in this position. That was the evaluation, 0.8 of this position. Let's see what is the evaluation of my engine. If you give it time, it realizes that black has many pawns. Black would put all the pawns on white squares, and the evaluation is wrong because it will evaluate like this with even the drawn endgame. So for example, if we remove all these pieces and black goes h5, that's a well-known draw, right? But the evaluation of that position would be much higher than 0.5, and that would be a relatively easy draw for black. So okay, so that's it. After this, they are two strong players. They agreed for a draw right here because there's not much to talk about. But let me try a little bit here. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do manually exchange the pieces. This is the evaluation of the endgame. This is a theoretical draw. This is the evaluation plus 2.5 and it's a draw. So if you see 0.5 or 6 or 8, most likely that's an easy fortress. Because even 2.5 is still a a theoretical draw. Well, it's not an easy one. White can try something here, like bring the king to e6 and then push g4. For example, after h4, that's it. That's king f8. Black is just waiting. Okay, so I would wrap up my stream like this. What I want you to memorize from this, just the engines are wrong all the time. As you know, Chess24's team expected knight c8 instead of knight d7 to prevent infiltration a7. So yeah, I was confused again. Yeah, I understand that. Knight to d7, which moment was that? Knight c8, I'm guessing this is the moment. Knight to c8. Yeah, this is very logical. But then the rook is stuck anyway. Black has many moves here, and knight c8 is a more human move. But the evaluation of the engine is completely misleading here. It's not 0.6. Like, it's very solid, almost equalized. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Engines get things wrong all the time, especially on low depths. All right. Thank you for watching. Please like it. Check the description of the video. You may find some interesting information there. Subscribe to my channel. Click on the bell to get notifications when I'm gonna post my next stream. Hopefully that would be tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care. Goodbye.